But I'll just quickly say that if you are expecting good news as far as the 90-day rule is concerned, you're out of luck. Hola amigos, Stuart here with an update video today. We'll have a bit of a chat about some of the main stories that have caught my attention in the press over the last week or so in Spain, while I take my dog Mia for a walk on this Saturday morning. As we can see, another beautiful day in this part of the country. The sun just coming up now around 8:35 a.m. We've got some pink clouds, absolutely beautiful, and the temperature for this time of year quite warm, around 15 degrees Celsius currently, getting up to a top today of around 23 degrees. So as I said, a little bit unusual. Now, one of the stories that caught my attention in the press this week related to daylight savings. I don't know if this is an important topic, but the topic of daylight savings was brought up by the Spanish Prime Minister because he wants to scrap it. And this week he proposed that idea to the European Union. Prime Minister Sanchez's argument is that daylight savings is not a good idea anymore. It disrupts too many people's lives, having to change the clock forward and backward a couple of times a year. So the debate has started whether to scrap this idea or not. And the big issue for many people is, what time would we stick with? Would we stick with winter time, or would we stick with summertime, which is what we are currently on? And basically the main issues here are, if you stick with winter time, you would get more light in the mornings, less light in the afternoon. And if you stick with summertime, the exact opposite. The sun would come up later in the morning, but you would get more afternoon hours of light. And that is what politicians have to decide. More light in the morning or more light in the afternoon? That's the question. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Would you like to stay on winter time, or would you prefer to stay on summertime permanently here in Spain? Let me know. Now, personally, I'm in favor of more hours of light in the morning because I'm a morning guy. I like to get up early. I like to have daylight when I'm out walking the dog. I don't like it to be dark, but I can understand that a lot of people would like the exact opposite, more hours of sunlight in the afternoon. But of course, a particular problem that Spain faces is that it's not on its correct time zone. Geographically, Spain should be on the same time zone as Portugal, the UK, Ireland, but it's not. It's on Central European time. It's on the same time zone as France. It's on the same time zone as Germany, and that is a bit of a problem. So personally, and I mentioned this in another video during the week, I think Spain should get back on its correct time zone, and then we can start tinkering with daylight savings. Don't know, just my opinion. Now, it seems that a lot of these so-called experts out there are in favor of keeping winter time. They prefer hours of light in the morning hours rather than in the evening. But of course, Spain's tourism industry seems to think the other way is better, having more hours of light in the afternoon, especially when it comes to the service industry, the hotel industry, the bar and restaurant industry in this country. They want more light in the afternoon. They want people at their establishments enjoying the outdoor seating areas at 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening during those winter months. But as I said, according to many experts on the matter, especially when it comes to people's health, they prefer it the other way around, to have more hours of light in the morning. And as I said earlier also, that is what I personally would prefer, because I like hours of light during the morning. But anyway, we'll see if this idea gets off the ground. It's not a new idea. It's been around for quite a while, but Prime Minister Sanchez has brought it up again, and we'll see if the European Union reacts, because as we know, the European Union can be a little bit slow at times to get certain things done. And because this isn't a very important topic, it might take a while. Now, another story that caught my attention in the press this week, something that I spoke about last week on the channel in the video that I did last Saturday, and it is about the future of cars in the European Union and in Spain, especially older vehicles, older diesel vehicles. Last week I spoke about some of the changes that will be implemented in many cities here in Spain as of 2026, and some of the prohibitions that car drivers will face, especially the drivers of older vehicles in this country that don't have environmental stickers or the wrong type of environmental sticker. And it was this article here that caught my attention this week. France and Spain support the ban on diesel and gasoline cars in 2035, according to a letter. In a letter sent to EU leaders, Paris and Madrid say that the goal must be maintained, but call for Made in Europe incentives to help the struggling automotive industry. After the European Commission's announcement of the upcoming revision of the law banning new gasoline and diesel cars by 2035, France and Spain urged EU leaders to stay the course, saying that zero-emission vehicles are indispensable, according to an official letter seen by Euronews. Paris and Madrid argue that if the ban on zero-emissions cars is reversed, the bloc will not achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, a commitment that is now binding under EU climate law and that will probably be debated by EU leaders during the European Council in Brussels on Thursday. So there we go, the headline quite clear. France and Spain support the ban on diesel and gasoline cars in 2035. The European Union, I think, said that they are going to have a look at this ban in 2035, possibly revise the ban, because as we know, the European car manufacturers are not going too well at the moment, especially compared with some of the other car manufacturers around the world, some of the Asian car manufacturers, and they're struggling to compete, I think, and a lot of pressure, no doubt, from the car lobbies in the European Union on the European Union government. But France and Spain saying that they want this ban to go ahead in 2035. So what's that? Less than 10 years away. And it seems strange to me, given the amount of diesel and gasoline vehicles that still exist in this country here, Spain. Spain is way behind some of the northern European countries when it comes to electric vehicle take-up. You saw in last week's video just how many of the cars in this particular neighborhood still run on those old combustion engines. But Spain, as we saw there, along with France, pushing for this ban to go ahead. So we'll see if the European Commission listens to France and Spain on this matter, or whether they change their mind. We'll wait and see. Now, the next piece of news that caught my attention in the press this week in Spain, and it's good news for Picasso fans, because the missing piece of Picasso work that disappeared a couple of weeks ago has been found. Now, if you're not familiar with this case, the piece of art in question disappeared a couple of weeks ago. It was en route to an art display in Granada, I think, a city in the south of Spain, from Madrid, and en route it disappeared. Was it stolen? Was it lost? Was it misplaced? Those are some of the questions that the Spanish police were trying to work out. And in the end, it turns out that it wasn't stolen. As we can see in this article here, the Picasso disappeared and now recovered in Madrid did not leave the portal. It was taken by a neighbor who thought it was a package. A transport company had to pick up Still Life with a guitar in a building in the capital city Madrid to move it along with other works for an exhibition in Granada, but they left it behind. So it seems that the transport workers were not all that competent when it comes to moving these expensive items around, because let's remember that this piece of work is valued at 600,000 euros, or at least that is what it is insured for. And you would think that the message to the transport company would have been, take care with this one particular item because it's worth a lot of money. But it seems it wasn't the case. They left it behind in the downstairs area of a normal apartment block in the capital city Madrid, and a neighbor picked it up thinking that it was just a normal letter. But anyway, some good news that this precious piece of art has been found, as I said, valued at around 600,000 euros, I think, and we'll see if anybody loses their job over this incident. I don't think so, but I reckon somebody should, because it is incompetence at the highest level, or at least that's my opinion. And the final thing I'll talk about today, the final piece of news that caught my attention over the week, relates to Spain-UK relations. It appears the relationship between the two countries is at an all-time all-time high. Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez was recently in the United Kingdom meeting with his counterpart there, Sir Keir Starmer, and this week the Economy Minister here in Spain also went to the United Kingdom and had some interesting things to say, especially when it comes to the mobility of workers between the two countries. As we can see from this article here in the newspaper El País, Carlos Cuerpo defends in London rapid progress in labour mobility between the United Kingdom and Spain. The minister's visit, which includes meetings with members of the government and British investment funds, seeks to strengthen economic and trade ties based on the new bilateral treaty between the two countries. The Spanish Minister of Economy, Carlos Cuerpo, has defended in London the need to speed up and facilitate labour mobility between both countries, one of the claims that Spanish companies operating in the UK have most insistently requested since Brexit. And let's be honest about this, the restrictions when it comes to movement between not only the UK and Spain, but also the UK and other European countries has annoyed a lot of people since Brexit took place back in, what was it, 2016. And lots of Spanish people and lots of British people have missed out on the opportunity to work and move freely between the two countries. So it's going to be interesting to see if things do start to change between the two countries, especially when it comes to mobility. And there was also an article that caught my attention in the press about the famous 90-day rule, and I'll talk about that now. But I'll just quickly say that if you are expecting good news as far as the 90-day rule is concerned, you're out of luck, because as we can see in this article here from the Mallorca Daily Bulletin, British ambassador to Spain tells Bulletin that British residents need to get their TIE identification card and rules out 90-day change. The British ambassador to Spain, Sir Alex Ellis, stressed to the Bulletin during an interview this morning the importance of British residents getting the TIE identification card ahead of April next year, when all of the EU Schengen region will have the new biometric EES entry and exit scheme in operation. For a short period, there will be alternative options at border controls, but having a TIE card will make travelling in and out of Spain much easier and fluid, while also preventing residents getting caught in the 90-day trap. And on the topic of the 90-day rule, Sir Alex said that is a matter for the European Union and is highly unlikely that it would be scrapped. And this is something that I have said all along. Because Spain is in the Schengen area, it is very, very difficult to get a bilateral agreement with the UK on this matter. Every other European country would have to be on board as well. And as we know, that is very, very difficult to achieve in the current day European Union. Because since there is no borders in the Schengen area between Spain and Portugal, between Spain and France, you wouldn't be able to just come to Spain for 90 days, because you could cross the border easily into one of those other countries that I mentioned, and that is the problem. So it looks as though the 90-day rule, which is a problem for many UK citizens, is going to be around for a long time yet. So let's not hold our breath on this one. On that note, I'm going to wrap the video up. If you have anything to add to the conversation today on any of the topics that I have spoken about, please, the comment section is the place for you. I would love to hear your thoughts. So as I said, write them below in that comment section. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you never miss a video when I publish it. Until the next one, hasta luego from sunny Spain.